We spend a lot of time talking about what we should bring to work, but what about what we should leave behind? Oftentimes, what not to do is as important as what to do. Sometimes it's even more important. That's why we decided to profile 9 anti-skills that you should leave behind, both in your personal and your professional life. And yes, it can be difficult to admit when we're being flaky, passive-aggressive, or downright dishonest. However, recognizing these anti-skills is an important part in getting rid of them. So let's define our anti-skills, what they are and what they aren't. And let's explore examples in which these behaviors might sneak into your work.
What are anti-skills? Anti-skills are the skills you specifically would not want to showcase on your resume. Sometimes they are loud and ugly skills that give you a bad reputation. Other times they are lurking, shadowy, quote-unquote skills that might be doing harm without your noticing. Let's explore all of the anti-skills and how to cut them out. Number 1, indecisive. We're starting with indecision because it sounds pretty innocent. The caveat here is that everyone will likely combat some of these anti-skills in their own work. If you can't choose between a grilled cheese or a BLT for lunch, you're not going to lose your job. Indecision is often a symptom of other problems, like imposter syndrome, burnout, or a confidence dip. Indecisiveness hits all of us, but it can do real damage to your career. Large-scale indecision. Bottlenecking projects by constantly running work by management before proceeding to the next step. Undermining your own input by adding phrases like, I don't know, maybe that doesn't make any sense. What do you think? Smaller scale indecision. Taking an email poll on what everyone wants for lunch when it's your week to choose. How to combat indecisiveness. Our advice here is admittedly a little basic and tough to swallow. It's this: make the decision. If you're choosing lunch, do it with confidence. If you're leading a new project, remind yourself that you were chosen for a reason and that you are the decision maker. Indecision is best fought with confidence, which is always going to be a work in progress. For more on the psychology of indecision, read our article on the cost of being indecisive at work. Number 2, overconfident or cocky. Remember how we talked about using confidence to combat indecisiveness? Well, some people have an abundance of what appears to be overconfidence or cockiness. As we are a women-focused career site, we recognize the irony of addressing overconfidence. Most of our content is modeled around enhancing our confidence, standing up for ourselves and those around us, and for cultivating confidence around our work. Typically, this is something women see others bring to work, and it causes serious intimidation, imposter syndrome, and in many cases, withdrawal. Large-scale cockiness. Someone who only talks about themselves, their successes, and how they do things. Someone who isn't interested in new perspectives or ideas. Smaller-scale cockiness. Piggybacking on someone else's success by mentioning how you did something similar, and by your standards, better. How to combat cockiness. By all means, flaunt your successes. Women in the workplace do not need to be told to sit down or lower their voices. Instead, consider redirecting your extra confidence to lift others up. However, recognize when it's someone else's turn to speak up and have their voice heard. If you love the sound of your own voice, that's amazing. Use it to champion yourself and those around you. Number 3, unfocused. One of our highest performing pieces of content at Career Contessa is a long list of things to do while you're bored at work. Yes, we are all guilty of being unfocused from time to time. No big deal. However, focus is so important in the workplace. It's no surprise that focus is a hard skill to get and keep a hold of. The world is so distracting. When you're unfocused at work, you run the risk of silly errors, missed deadlines, and other completely avoidable mistakes. Large-scale lack of focus. Forgetting to implement client feedback before a large project goes live. Sending a reply all that you definitely only meant to send to one person. Smaller scale lack of focus. Missing a small spelling error on a presentation. Depending on your workplace, focus can be a huge deal. If you're dealing with a large exchange of money, a simple lack of focus can literally cost thousands of dollars. In other workplaces, lack of focus might not be as much of a big deal per se, but it can earn you a reputation for being sloppy or too distracted. Number 4, flaky. Nobody likes to flake. Earning yourself a reputation as a flake in the workplace is not great. We're not talking about the fact that you might not want to engage in the Zoom happy hour or someday join the company bowling team. Flakiness at work looks like someone who says they'll do something a certain way, only to change their mind, pass the buck to someone else, or disregard any promises altogether. Flakiness is typically an earned anti-skill. This means your flakiest team member is likely to be a manager or leader who has the position to be flaky. Large-scale flakiness. Promising raises and other incentives to employees when a goal is hit. When the goal does hit, crickets. constantly arriving late to meetings, canceling appointments last minute, or never paying close attention. Smaller scale flakiness, forgetting a detail mentioned in a previous meeting, overpromising, then correcting when faced with reality. How to combat flakiness. Take a beat. The workplace can move fast, and it can seem attractive to push some to-dos off by promising something better for a later date. Try to never overpromise. Take the time to think things through before launching into the next thing. We have a mantra here at Career Contessa, which is to only do things once, but to do them correctly. Often, you have more time than you think. Take time, even if it's 10 additional seconds, to consider before making promises or moving on to the next bullet point. Number 5, passive-aggressive. Can you not tap your pencil on your desk during the Zoom call? Anybody who has ever had an adult roommate is all too familiar with passive aggression. The last thing you want to do is communicate passive-aggressively in the workplace because, quite frankly, yuck. We have talked about how to deal with a passive-aggressive coworker in the past, but have you run a passive aggression test on yourself lately? Sometimes we have special relationships with certain coworkers. These are your teammates who you joke around with, take fun jabs at, and generally have fun being around. These relationships can take a sibling-like quality, and it's good, it's fun, it's fine, until it's not. While you may have a fun relationship with one teammate, your good-natured ribbing can end up seeming or being passive-aggressive. Additionally, you don't want that special relationship to bleed into your other relationships at work. While your work BFF might love a passive-aggressive zinger, your other coworkers may not appreciate it. Large-scale passive-aggressive. Making a comment in front of many people about something a coworker may have forgotten, i.e., well, Brenda, it looks like you're not getting enough sleep. Look at all these typos. Making a public complaint that is obviously geared to a specific person, instead of speaking to that person privately. Smaller scale passive-aggressive. Joking with your perfectionist work BFF about how she's used the wrong "your" in an email. How to combat passive-aggressiveness. Passive aggression is used to stave off deeper-rooted issues for the time being. Often, it only makes them worse. Try not to do it. Pro tip, if you are ever starting an email or a sentence with the words, "can you not?" you are likely engaging in some passive-aggressive behavior. So, can you just not? Number 6, dishonest. We all know 2 facts about dishonesty in the workplace, so let's get those out of the way and attack this one. 1, everybody has been dishonest in the workplace at one point. Dishonesty isn't always lying. Dishonesty can be withholding information, making last-minute adjustments to cover up a mistake, taking advantage of someone's good nature, abusing your expenses, and much more. Large-scale dishonesty, taking credit for someone else's work, abusing privileges you have to the detriment of your team. Smaller-scale dishonesty. The only situation we believe dishonesty is quote-unquote okay is when you're protecting someone from being abused or hurt, in which case you should discuss with HR, leadership, or EEOC. How to combat dishonesty. Not to be rude, but you know the difference between right and wrong. One practice we find helpful is to consider that your computer screen is constantly being projected on the wall for everyone to see. Is everything you're doing on the up and up? Number 7, braggadocious or a braggart. Every workplace has had a braggart at one point. It could be kind of funny when someone has no self-awareness. It could be a boss who makes 10 times your salary talking about how they just can't decide which island to summer on this year. It's the coworker who comes in every Monday boasting about all the love interest they're fielding. It's your boss who, hey, wait a second, is bragging about the work you're pretty sure they stole from you. Nobody likes a braggadocious person. Large-scale braggart behavior, taking credit for a victory won through a team effort, purposefully boasting about all that you have when you know your coworkers do not have the same means as you. Smaller-scale braggart behavior, showing off a new coat you got with your well-earned bonus. How to combat braggadocious behavior. We're not talking about celebrating real success. Absolutely always do that. In fact, slap a reminder on your calendar to celebrate your successes every week. Invite others to the party and celebrate all of your success together. Know your audience. Assess what's an appropriate conversation for work. If you're a leader celebrating a huge success, make sure praise is lobbed on every member of the team who made it happen. Number 8, stubborn or fixed. We've talked about fixed mindsets versus growth mindsets before. While we believe we should always exist in a growth mindset, we are always going to have little blind spots where we are wholly fixed. When you earn the reputation for being stubborn or fixed in attitude, you are actively working against yourself. If you're in a leadership position, you're working against your whole organization as well. Change is uncomfortable, but that's why it can be so rewarding. Try to keep this in focus. The next time you feel like your immediate reaction is a hard no, consider why. Large-scale, stubborn, and fixed attitude. A my way or the highway mentality that keeps your department operating in the past. A refusal to hear any ideas that feel off your own course. Smaller scale, stubborn, and fixed attitude. Requiring data-driven proof for any and all changes. While this is solid in theory, some new approaches simply won't have data-driven proof. How to combat stubbornness and fixed mindset. Run an ego check. Why are you really so opposed to switching something up, fixing something, or attacking a problem in a new or innovative way? Is your stubbornness rooted in ego? This is a difficult question to ask and even more difficult to answer honestly. Number 9, apathetic or indifferent. Apathy and indifference are quite frustrating to encounter and to feel in the workplace. Naturally, you're going to have some days where you see your boss's name pop up in your inbox and you're going to let out an audible groan. However, if you're stewing in indifference for a long period of time, you might be experiencing under-challenged burnout at work, where you're so bored by your work that you simply stop caring. Large-scale apathy. Neglecting to connect with your team member on a project. Failing to remember the function of your team member's job. Consistently ignoring emails and messages asking for your input or expertise. Smaller scale apathy. Leaving emails unanswered for a few days. Forgetting to RSVP to a meeting. How to combat indifference. Try to remotivate yourself at work. Speak to leadership about new opportunities or a bigger vision. If this isn't available, you might start to look for a job that reignites your motivation. If you're feeling indifferent, especially in a leadership role, it will become quickly contagious.